Hello. With the 80th anniversary of D-Day fast approaching, I thought this week we'd take a look at a 3D printed Pegasus Bridge kit that I've purchased from Warfayre. Now, I had looked at the Sarissa kit, but as it's so large, I opted for this one because it would be easier for me to store. Now, the slight downside with this kit, as the chap advertises, is that it doesn't come with any instructions. However, there are a series of photographs to help you piece it together. And hopefully this video will be helpful if you decide to purchase the kit. Right, let's take a look at a few photos to help us break it down a little bit more. So as you can see, there's quite a few parts, but don't be daunted because a lot of these rails that you can see are actually spares. And there may be one or two bits that ultimately won't come in a kit if you get one, because they are extras and they're not required. But anyway, let's try and make a bit more sense of what you're looking at in the next picture. Right, in this picture, you can see that I've highlighted all of the bits that I regard as spares for parts A, B and C. So as you can see, that seriously takes down the amount of parts you're going to need to build it. And there are a few items that I've indicated with the X that are just not required at all. Anyway, let's look at another picture and we'll break down what we're going to work on. Now in this picture, as you can see, there's two X's marking parts that are just not required at all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking out all the items labelled A because they don't need any parts adding, and we'll focus on the main part. Right, so these are the parts that I can eliminate straight away because it's fairly obvious what you're going to be doing with these. And there's not much in the way of parts that need fixing. This one, the only removable part is the barrier, and to be honest, it's unlikely that I'm going to glue that anyway because I want to be able to take it away or lift it up, so I can eliminate that one. The next one is this part with the sloping ridges, which according to the photos connects like that. And then you've got this one with the walkways down either side, and that one is going to connect like that. So clearly I don't need to think about any of the parts for that. The final one is the building by the side of it. Now, all there is for that is the floor, which has got little ledges that it can sit on halfway down, so you can put your men in here. And then the roof, which you're going to leave removable anyway, because you need to be able to lift it off to put the man in and then put that on. So those parts we can eliminate. So I'll take these away and then I'll bring back the first piece and we'll start slowly trying to pick it apart from the photographs, because as I've already said, there are no instructions, so it's a matter of piecing it together based on what photographic evidence we've got and what looking at the real bridge, what you think makes sense really. But anyway, let's take it one stage at a time. So I'll take these away and we'll bring the first part up. Right, so I've gathered together the first parts that I'm going to be requiring to build. Now, I've had a good look at all the photographs and hopefully you should be able to just follow what I'm doing if you get this model, because I've done the work for you, hopefully. So as I've looked at it, the first thing you notice is these being on here like that, obviously facing outwards, with obviously the texturing on that side, same on the other. But the other thing, by looking and comparing the photographs, you see how this, you've got this on the side here, across. I've found that that is clearly meant to sit there. So that's going to be my first fix, really. So I'm just having a quick look at the points of contact. And the points of contact seem to be, obviously the main one's here, along the top. So I know I need to glue there. It's only going to be on this raised bit here of this pattern. And then there's a tiny bit that you could glue to that roof that would make it a bit more secure. So that's what I'm going to start with, and I'm going to put this one on first. Right. So just looking at my points of contact again, I'm going to have it here. So I'm going to put a little bit on here. And then there's a tiny bit on the side here. I'm just going to hold that for a minute. And then I'm going to do the same with this side. Push these out of the way a minute. So again, it's going to sit above that cross on the weight. You've got a point of contact at the bottom of that cross. You could put a little bit on that door, that frame there, and then this corner again. So I'm going to put a bit there. Let's have a look. Just going to hold that in place for a few seconds. Yeah, so that's that part. Now the one thing that it doesn't show very well on any of the photographs, but you can see it, but you can't see the exact placing, is these little pieces. You've got two of them. Don't get it confused with that one, because that one's slightly different. It's got these triangle plates on the end of it. But these essentially are the supports for this. And, you know, from what I can see, because they're a bit obscured, you've got one there and another one that sits here. That's in there like that, look. I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the edges. This one's a little bit tighter here because you haven't got that raised ridge. I'll bring it close for you to see in a minute. Just want to make sure I've got it lined up. Right. So that's looking like that, look. Right, so I've taken a look at this. I knew roughly where it should go, but I want it to be exact. And it's going to click in there like that. As you can see, it's got a slight raised part here, and that tells you which way round it's got to go. And that sits in there, and it also helps keep the struts just the right distance apart. So let's glue that one in place. And you know it's right because it lines up with this part here, look. Can you see this one that's going up? That gives you your placement. Follow that round. That's it. And that's it. So that's that in place. And you come to these two pieces. Now, with this one, again, from the photographs and also from the fact that it's got a little ridge here, look, can you see that? On the back, a slight raised bit. If you push that against it, that gives you its position. So let's glue that in place. Keep it well centered. Push it to the back. You can see that? It's gone right up to the back of that. And then it overshadows that. And then this piece, if you look at this one, can you see there? It's got like a lip with a ridge, recess, and that is so that it fits onto this. Can you see? Look, like that. And it forms a nice joint and then keeps it in place. And when that's there, obviously because you're going to be gluing it there, and then you're going to feed it through between these legs at this end and glue it to the roof of that cabin beneath it. You know, this one here. So you want to run a bit of glue in the seam. And you want a little bit on here where it's going to connect to the cabin. Push it up against that bit again. Get it lined up. So that's that sitting in place, and as you can see, it forms this little triangle here above the post, and that's how you know you've got it right. So that's all of those parts, and then all we've got to do now is we're going to glue this on here. Now this, basically I've looked at the pictures again, and essentially these just run right up to this joint point. So that tells you you've got it in the right position. So you're just putting the glue on the straight parts that are going to sit on that rail. That's it. Starting to look a lot more recognisable now, isn't it? Let's just adjust the angle so you can see it a bit more. Right, so the next parts we're going to introduce are these. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this onto here. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to fit these supports which carry the upper walkway rail. Let's just look at there. So I'm going to put a little bit along that edge so where it meets that rail as well. I'm going to do the same on this side. So it's going up against this rail, and then you see this beam? It's gluing against that, and then this middle rail on this side is glued to meet that rail. I'll bring it up and show you once I've got it in place. Right. You see that? So just here, look, it's against that rail, you know, that forms this part, and then it's following the line of this side of the beam. And that's what it looks like. So it's sloping outwards. And same on the other side, look, with that one. Right, so having consulted the photographs again, I've found that this second supporting piece is underneath it one section of the barrier in, so basically in line with that. So like when I come to do this bit, look, that will give me its position. Right, so with that bit in mind, I need to put glue on there, glue on that edge, and glue on that part where it's coming down, you know, the actual lifting part of the bridge, and then also on the bottom of the second support. Right. There. There. So I is it? Spell that I in it. So on a bit here. And then we want a bit on that piece. So, as you can see, this bit is glued against the side of this panel, glued onto the support rail, and then the curve of the lifting part of the bridge, a couple of blobs of glue where the warp rail meets that part, and then finally you've got this strut which is glued down, then you're just a matter of keeping it straight. So that's like that top sidewalk in place. And what we've got to do is mirror that on this side. Just using the grid on my cutting mat to make sure I've got it plumb and lined up. Right, now we're going to do the same as we did on the other side. So points of glue. Are going to be a bit there. Here. Down that rail. And then on the base plate of that. Sure, sorry I can't keep this fully up to the camera. As you can appreciate, it's a bit fiddly at this stage. But I'll bring it up to you so you can see more clearly in a minute. Just bring that up, and as you can see, so it's connected at these 2 points, glued underneath, glued at the bottom, and then down this rail. I'll give you a good look round that so you can see how it's sitting. And then obviously as you can see, your supports, these two are lined up with the back two. And there we've got the basic part of the bridge now. The next bit's going to be a bit more fiddly because you've got some little bits to attach to this, and then you've got to put the rail on the inside of it as well. So we'll have a look at that next, and I'll sort out some of the bits that I'm going to need for the next stage. Right, I'll bring you back in a minute. Right, so what I'm going to go for first is the ladder to the upper walkway, which is going to go on like that. And then obviously you've got these two pieces. Now what you want to look for, I'll bring that up. I don't know whether you're going to see it. Can you see the detail of the post showing against the rail? So you should have one of these that's that way round, and one with that detail on the other side. Now unfortunately on this print of mine it's not come out well, so I've started engraving it on because I want to make do, because I want to get it built. But that's what you want to watch out for when you're putting them on. You've got a left hand side, a right hand side and a left hand side, and that detail should be showing out either side. But first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the actual ladder itself in place. Sorry about that little interruption. So basically what I've said is I'm going to stick the ladder in place first, and then that'll give me the clue for how I want the rails to fit on. So I want a bit on there, and then on the bottom of the ladder. As you can see, the actual top of the ladder is as broad as the rail. So when it comes to putting on these bits, they want to line up this bit. We could actually just taper in a bit so it glues to that rail to suggest the shape of it a bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the glue and then manipulate it where I want it. Show you that. So that's fitting on the outside of the ladder like that, look. You know, just in case you thought it was they should be tapered and connected to the ladder, they go on the outside of the ladder, and then you can connect it to this top rail. So then I'm going to do the same on this side, But obviously there's no top rail as yet. We're going to use some bits to make that up. But we can still glue this in place and just leave that last bit until we get to it. So a bit on there. And bits on the very end where it meets the side of the ladder. I'm sorry if you can't see this very well, but as I say, it's quite fiddly at this stage. But I will bring it up to the camera for you to have a look in a minute. Right, so bring it up. I'll show you this. Put a bit of light on it for you. So if you look at it from this side first, you can see how that's connecting to the sides of the ladder now, can't you? And then the very bottom bit is actually glued to the base. You can see it better now. So only the handrails protrude over the edge. Look. The base of the side sits on the very edge of this plate. Along, you know, flush with that. If I show you the other side, you probably can see it a bit more as well. And again, this bit flush with the edge. Right, so that's those bits. Right, so now that we've got the ladder in place, the only bit left to do is, you know, to continue the rail along here, just so no one could drop off the side here. And the same on this side, look, on the opposite side. So we just need to close that in, close that one off, and then put the barrier on this side. And I'm presuming that these are going to be the ones for that, because they fit just right. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to put them to the side slightly, because I just want to give it more walk room. I don't know whether I'm going to get a bolt action soldier in there, unfortunately, not with his disc on. But I could probably place one there, that's for sure. But I want it to at least look the part. So I think I'm going to glue it there. And then put that end piece like that. I don't know whether you can see that. Something like that. As I do normally, I'll bring it up and show it you once I've got it where I want it. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that end as well. Sure I've got that squared up. And then this little square I'm going to use as a blanking piece. I say, without a drawing, and the fact that there seems to be some duplicates in among this, so I'll perhaps pass that on to the chap at Warfayre. Maybe some of these bits that are not required, they'll perhaps take out in the future. That's it. Right. So that's looking like all the top walkways done now, look. Right, so I've brought back the original big bits that I didn't need to work on. And now you can see it all pieced together. I'll show you the little hut on the other side in a minute, but essentially, if you wanted to make it the complete model now, the only thing left to do would be to glue that onto there, and glue that one onto there, and then finally glue that one onto there, and that's your complete bridge. I think that looks pretty good, and to me, even though it's big when it's all together like that, personally, this is just me, I mean, this I won't glue in place because I want to be able to take it up, lift it up, put it down, whatever. So I should just paint it separately and then just have it as a part that I move them down where I want it. And the other decision I'm going to make is I'm not going to glue these on like that, because that way I'll be able to store it a lot easier, which is a big thing for me. But obviously I know that there's some people that are perhaps going to follow this that want to make it complete, so it is just a matter of gluing it together at that stage. The main work is done now. Same with the little up that I've left off to the side. All you've got there is 3 parts. You've got a removable inner floor, which if you look inside sits on 4 little lugs, so that you can put soldiers in the bottom bit and in the top. And the top piece, not going to glue that in place because you want to be able to get access to it. So again, I'd just paint it up and then lay it on the top. I have seen people playing with this one, and they've put this little hut on that side. But I think the correct position is on the other side. I've not got enough room to lay it out here, but what I'll do is I'll turn the end bit round for you. So the ladder bit facing this way, that's as I would have mine. But again, I'm going to keep it separate. But if you wanted to, you just glue that on there and then that's that done. The only bit that was left over that I think looks distinct is that. Now, I think that is like an inner barrier for this end of the road, and even if you place it like that, this walkway. But again, that being said, even if it is, it's not a piece I'd want to glue in place, because then you can't move vehicles through it. So personally, unless somebody else can indicate another place for this, that to me looks like what that's meant to be, an inner barrier, which would make sense, because then no one could get onto the bridge this way without the barrier being lifted. But for me, I'm going to leave that as a loose piece. It's not something I want to glue in place. Other than that, there were several lengths of railing like this in the kit, which it seems obvious to me that they're exactly the right lengths for these pieces. So I think what they've done is just within the kit and the setup, they've printed you spares in case you ever break these. Because there's certainly nowhere else for railings to go. But the Wayfair chap's been really kind to me. You know, I had one bit that hadn't printed quite right, and he replaced it immediately for me. And you know, I've gone back to him with different queries, and you know, he's been really helpful. And basically, my understanding of this, like I say, is there's some of these extra. I'll show you some of them. I mean, there is nowhere else on this bridge. I mean, I've looked at the real bridge. I've looked at models of the bridge. There's nowhere else for that to go logically. So it's clearly meant. There's a spare bit for here. Look, it's exactly the right length. And you know, having seen people playing with these Pegasus bridges, not just this one, but the Sarissa one, you know, when you're moving models around, you do tend to get breakages. So having something like this that you could glue in place and repair your bridge would be really handy. So, you know, I'm going to suggest to the Warfayre chap that it's worth including these. And there's also some spare stair pieces as well, you know, like the bit that goes over that side. So there seems to be plenty of spares in it, but I'm happy that that's complete now. And because he's been so good to me, the Warfayre bloke, I'm going to basically send him a photo of the parts that are left over, and then he can probably rationalise it. But I think, as you saw, the main part of the bridge when you're putting it together, once that's done, and that's fairly easy to follow, I think. The actual railings, you know, it's just using your common sense, really. But hopefully this video is going to be helpful anyway. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap up this part of it. I'll just lay it out here. I'm not going to put anything fancy on, because obviously it needs painting now. But I'll just put a few soldiers on it, you know, just to show you what it looks like. Right, back in a minute. Right, so here is the complete bridge. And I have to say, I'm really pleased with it. And, you know, despite not having any instructions, you know, I had to do a bit of thinking, but it's not been too challenging to put together, in fairness. So, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, I know the Sarissa one is supposed to be, you know, really large. I haven't seen it myself in the flesh, but possibly one of the slight drawbacks on this is that, you know, there's less room to position your soldiers on the upper rails. But I've managed to get one in there, as you can see. And there's loads of places to put the Germans. But the big thing about this kit for me is it looks the part, and it's going to be really easy for me to store. And that really makes a big difference for me. And, you know, I have to say I am pretty pleased with it. I mean, I've scattered a few soldiers on to give you an idea of what it looks like, but obviously it needs painting. But I've got so much on at the minute that might have to wait for a while. But yeah, I've enjoyed it, and I like the look of it. And most of all, I like the fact that it's, you know, I'm going to have plenty of room to store it. Right, I'm going to start wrapping this one up now. I think you've probably heard me waffling on for long enough. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. And if you're thinking of purchasing one of these kits, I hope this video will prove to be of use to you when you come to put it together. If you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And, you know, if you like what I'm doing, please consider subscribing. Finally, feel free to post any comments you want below, or if you've got any questions and I can help you, I will. I always reply. Anyway, thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.